All right, we'll call the special meeting of Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees to order. We're going to start off with, I was instructed that we need to do the public hearing for the budget first. So I will now open the public hearing and announce that the proposed millage rate of 0.0001 mils is the rolled back rate for 2023-2024. The purpose of the levy is to maintain the legal standing of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority as a taxing authority. Mr. Williams, would you do an overview of the budget, please?
I will, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have, this is the second of two public hearings, which you are required to conduct by law. I'll direct your attention to the budget summary, which is included in your agenda packet. You should note that it does state that the expenditures are 8.9% more than last year. I've been asked before why we show an increase, and I'll just remind the trustees it's based on expenditures, regardless of where that income or revenue comes from, not revenue. So the budget we prepared does show expenditures 8.9% more than last year. The budget summary also shows that we have a balanced budget, and we did make the correction in the indigent patient care line item that was discussed at our first hearing. So we have three funds, that's FUND funds. The first is the Healthcare Services Fund. And as you can see, we placed interest income into this particular fund. This is the fund that we would pay for indigent care, hospital services provided outside of our domain, and et cetera, should they be provided. And that's what is paid out of this particular fund. The next fund is the Building Administration Fund. This is the fund that obviously has, in the past year in particular, has received the most attention. This is the expenses that are paid as a result of keeping Lakeshore Hospital Authority, Lakeshore Hospital open. You can see we're projecting, if it were to run an entire year, at $705,000. I'll remind you that is based on an annual estimate. Obviously, if that changes, this budget, as can all of the others, be amended at your discretion. So we have placed the $705,000 in the budget. And then we have the operating fund. This is pretty much where staff salaries are paid, so on and so forth. We went through these in the first hearing almost line by line. The only thing that's new here that I will point out, as I did in the first hearing, is I did include in wages a 5% increase for both Sonia and Cynthia. Other than that, the budget is based on what actual expenses have been to the greatest extent. So we have the three different funds. We are not generating our revenue through millage. We are generating our revenue through interest income, primarily through securities. So having said that, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions or comments on the budget by anybody on the authority board?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, as far as budget transfers during the fiscal year, I assume that if additional funds were needed in the building administration, then we could take it from either one of the other two where the surplus funds are.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
By that, I mean, if funds were needed to complete projects over there, we could transfer with no problems.
No problem. It's a board decision. All it would require is a vote of the trustees.
Thank you, sir. It's the only question I have, Mr. Chair.
Any questions?
far as amending this, Dale, And we had talked about cutting the insurance rates,
Mhm.
security, if we decide to do something different with this, obviously the second part of this meeting. So I was hoping we'd cover before this, but if we're looking at this, we had to change. What are the limitations on our changing of this budget?
I know of none, as long as you remain within your revenue. I know of no restrictions on your part. As long as everything is done within the confines of the law, that's it. I mean, as I said in the first hearing, these budgets are based on assumptions and best guesses. Obviously, they're subject to change, and when they do, your control of the budget through the amendment process is what will make those amendments.
Do have one other question. I noticed the 5% salary increase for the employees. It's just the two, not the three.
Not the three.
Okay, thank you.
Going to open up the public comments, and then if there's any other comments or questions about, or is that okay? I'll open the public input section of the final budget hearing.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions about the budget. When I listened to the first hearing, Dale said there was a couple of corrections that needed to be made. Were those made in this final budget?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. They're not indicated, are they indicated anywhere what they are?
No, they were not. On the budget summary, the indigent patient care was shown at 400,000. First hearing was shown at 350,000. It's now shown at 4. That obviously changes the totals. So those have been made for this meeting. And I believe the second was on the insurance,
Okay, thank
which
you.
has been adjusted.
Get a copy of that or something. Thank you for that answer. My second question is, and I didn't see it in this, and I may have overlooked it. Just to operate this building. This one, the authority now is 23 clients, I believe, in the spreadsheet I sent you all. Except for Mr. Cannon, I apologize, but you're gonna get that. It's now 23 clients. Is it in the budget here? How much it costs just to operate this building?
No, it is combined with some other buildings, Stu. To get just this building would require that we pretty much take invoices and break them out. This includes more than one building.
Yeah, but this building, I mean, you got 2 employees, you got 23 clients. Compared, I don't know if you got the spreadsheet, your email doesn't go through, but I sent it to Sonia. So I hope she spread that around. You can see that originally it was like 177 clients in 2019, thereabouts. Now there's 23, but you're still in the same building, which is now mostly empty. This doesn't really seem to be a responsible way to spend taxpayer funds. Mr. Douglas. But that's that question. And the other question on the insurance. Now, I don't know if that's part of this meeting or the next meeting. But if you eliminate property insurance on this building, this is important.
Not this building.
I'm sorry, on the hospital, which now I guess the sign says closed.
Mhm.
It's not, it's out of business. I don't know who put that sign up. Is that the hospital authority sign? Who put that up there?
It's DHS.
They put it up?
Mhm.
Well, it's out of business, it's not closed. And that building burns down or gets hit by a meteorite.
So it's quite a bit of money.
What, it saves quite a bit of money, but the building. I mean, if you ask Mr. Savoy, it would cost $65 million to build a new hospital. A building like that with the amount of square feet, and the amount of stories and the amount of equipment and. And the stuff that makes it work. So then what happens if the building burns down? Or gets damaged? Do you guys reach into your pockets? And pay the taxpayers that Ms. Chancey is always so worried about? Pay them for the loss of the building if you decide not to insure? So far as I can tell in this budget, the insurance in here, right?
No, it's been removed. The cost has been adjusted.
Well, I think you gotta think about unadjusting that clause.
Yeah.
Because the replacement value was 65 million,
So,
and I get that part, but I'm done. That's just clearly irresponsible to remove the property insurance on an item that's owned by the taxpayers. And would become a total loss, should the building become a total loss.
thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Chairman,
Williams would say so.
just where everybody understands, October 1st, there will not be property insurance on the building we call the Lakeshore Hospital. And that was, of course, discussed by you at your previous meeting. There will be general liability. There will be some other specialized coverages that we're required to cover by law, such as boiler insurance and things of that nature, but not property insurance.
You got $20 million in the bank and this board's not going to insure that building?
Ms. Lindley, did you have comments on the budget?
No, none on the budget.
Any other comments on the budget this evening? The amendments to the proposed budget? If you have any other questions, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, but
No, he's,
Say it.
well, if I'm not mistaken, aren't we? If we don't have the fate of this building in hand, how can we declare the budget? It's fine.
that was my whole reason for wanting to do the other part first, but we can amend the budget, so.
The budget can be amended, but you can't, you're spending next year's fiscal dollars potentially on the next item, the special meeting. So I felt it prudent to have the hearing first so that you have a budget. And again, if issues arise, you can see how much money is available, you can move stuff around in an amendment process.
When did the insurance expire?
September 30th.
So this is not insured, it's until the end of the month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know how to resolve that in my head. I don't know how to project a budget for a building that may or may not exist in 10 minutes. Yeah,
Well, technically, based on the process and the flow, what would happen is you would adopt your budget, and then at your next meeting, if that decision were made tonight, you would have a budget amendment on the next meeting, which is the 11th,
Nine.
excuse me, the 9th. And at that meeting, you would amend your budget accordingly to provide for whatever steps and actions you took.
Expires the 30th? Yes. At this point, yes.
all right. I'm trying to reconcile it, guys. Bear with me.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I struggled with that for the last 2 weeks myself, but I have been able to reconcile that.
Yeah, all year long, we have voted on the same things in budget. So it isn't anything new. This is the best projection that we have right now. May I make a motion to adopt the budget?
I would, prefer if we have a motion to adopt the millage rate of 1/10,000 of a mill to the 2023-2024 fiscal year, which would be resolution 2023-001.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and this is for the adoption of the millage rate. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Now,
Now, I would like to make a motion to adopt the budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year totaling $1,519,600.
a motion,
Say the last part of that motion again, please.
Totaling $1,519,600.
It might be better to, on the resolution 2023-02 to adopt it with appropriations and reserves budget in the amount of 20 million.
Exactly.
Okay, So moved.
That way we got it covered on the.
so moved.
I will second it based on that.
motion and second for the budget and reserves. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Mr. Douglas, did I hear anything?
No, you didn't. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. I apologize, guys.
No, we can. Mr. Chair, I don't mind us having further discussion on it too, because I, again, have torn with that for the last 2 weeks myself. Unfortunately, we cannot adopt a line item budget, meaning I was hoping that we could adopt the healthcare service portion as well as the operating and not approve the building administration, but we can't do that. So, but again, we can amend it at any time during the fiscal year, which begins October 1, which is just Sunday. From my last looking at the calendar. So that's where I was able to satisfy the approval of the full budget. Because we do have employees in this authority, and I understand employees, period. And I could go on longer and longer and longer, but we'll do that on the second part.
Yeah.
Ask a question. Friend,
Yes, ma'am.
if building hit by a storm or catastrophic event should happen, we don't have insurance to rebuild it, and repair it. How much will it cost us to remove the debris?
Probably less than it would to tear it down and remove the debris.
What I'm saying is, that's a big expense.
More than the insurance.
Obviously.
May I make another comment, but ask a question first?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when the new budget goes into effect, aren't all paychecks out of that budget?
Beginning with that fiscal year, yes,
So in other words, if we do not approve the budget tonight, their next paycheck doesn't get paid.
that's correct.
We Go to receivership in the county. Again, I guess.
More than likely. Unless there's some action taken in the intervening process, but That's the effect of it, in the fiscal shutdown. So
Budget, take the insurance. you do it.
Basically what happens in Washington all the time, there's
exactly, you're without a statutory budget, your funds are frozen. Because you haven't given yourself authority to spend it.
so we would have to go into receivership with the county,
That'd be the most likely avenue unless the legislature.
let them deal with this whole monkey.
Yeah, or the legislature could step in if they're not in session. I don't know how they would do that at this point, but that would put all payroll, et cetera, on hold until some resolution was worked out.
Whereas if we accept the budget, all the rest of it can be worked out afterwards. By making changes to it.
Good, or
And they get their
or it
paycheck.
could prolong us kicking the same damn can down the road for another
Okay.
year.
Okay, we get frustrated. But what about their paychecks?
Well,
There's a difference there.
That pay could come from the county commissioners. It's kind of how I see it. And maybe they can make a decision on what to do with the bill.
After you go through all the rigmarole of getting it okay.
It was done, it was done. There's precedence for them to do it again. Unfortunately, we just haven't been able to come to a consensus and make any decisions on this board in the last year, but unfortunately, I don't get a vote either. And I will take this time to say to Cynthia, Sonia, Dwayne, Dale, I want you guys to get paid. I really do. So if this doesn't pass, I hope that the court will hear it quickly and get it to the county. And that way nobody misses a paycheck. That is a concern, but
Can't modify the budget tonight, insurance.
Mr. Chair, I'm not ready to shuck my responsibility yet. The governor appointed us, and I feel like that we can accomplish things. I agree. I've been on this board now for 20 months. And when I first got on here, we needed to send out RFPs. We got those February of 2022. We've now been here for 17 months debating it, and I am right here at it. And with no pun intended, we've got to stop the bleeding, and we're going to stop the bleeding. And if we can't, then I will be the first to admit that I have not accomplished my goal and not lived up to my appointment on this board. And I think that the four of us can be very reasonable about this. And that's my only reason for approving and adopting the budget to go forward effective October 1, 2023.
May have moved me. Issue is, I know I can stop the bleeding right here and now. You think we can work it out, Don?
Absolutely. Yep, one way or the other. And I know how you feel. I know how everybody feels. Again, 20 months on this board. When I started December of 21, I went back and looked, and we had 21.7 million of assets, cash on hand. Today, August 23, 20 million. That's
Yeah.
1.7 million. But I am the eternal optimist, and I believe that we could find a hospital to come. Period. That's about $85,000 a month, if you want to do the math. And again, I'm ready to stop the bleeding. We already did last month by taking the insurance out, which was $220,000 more that we were going to pay. Am I correct? It was from 298 to 78. And that's a substantial hit, and we need to start being more aware of the taxpayers' dollars. If we can sit up here and talk about not wanting to give the taxpayers' property away, yeah, that's one thing. But sitting here giving $80,000 a month of the taxpayers' money away, I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
Period. And that's why I don't have any problems again approving this budget and getting this done, and I believe we will. Period. You don't know how easy it would have been for me not to show up tonight. I'm retired, but I'm here because I don't want to shuck my responsibility.
I have a question. You can't modify.
We've got a motion.
Well, somebody should ask your attorney,
We're not,
community.
we're not doing that.
I mean, it could be.
We're not doing that.
You know?
Soon stop, or you'll be asked to leave.
Like,
You can hear me on the microphone that time.
I did, I
promise you.
certainly did, Mr.
Good.
Beal.
Thank you.
We gonna put somebody in that place? Are we gonna sit here and do this? Yeah, that's the thing. I just cannot sit here and let this kick down the road. At $250,000. It's too much money. It's too much money. We had one. They're sitting right there. Get out of jail free card, right here. And we let them walk away.
We haven't gotten to that point yet.
You believe there's hope?
I'm here.
Unless you're ready to. Call the out.
No. No, my gut tells me not to. I get the feeling that I'm gonna lose whatever options we have, and then we're gonna play this game again for a year. I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, we have no guarantees on any amendments after this. That we can come to a consensus. We haven't been able to reach them thus far. So if we go into receivership, all this goes to the county?
Yeah.
It will not stop their paychecks?
It will
And
stop.
we'll start.
It will stop.
Until the court rules. Or whatever ends up being filed, then the county, if they're determined to be the appropriate receiver. Then it would then fall into their hands as to how they manage the money and make the decisions from then on.
And it can take 2 to 10 weeks to get on the court docket.
I think it, last time it took less than 3 days to get on.
Correct.
Yeah, it appeared last time they moved fairly quickly.
Secret.
To deal with stress. We doing any more Q&A?
No,
No. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's a rock and a hard place.
Even at our next meeting, we can change it. And they get their paychecks without interruption.
The issue you said there is we have not been able to get rid of that thing. I don't know that we are the people to do it. From what I can tell, we have not been able to do it thus far. So and I hate, yeah. I'm having a hard time doing it because I know that if I put it into, if I took this and I let it go, we send it into receivership. Who gets control of this thing? County?
That's how the court ruled, yes, and that's what happened last time.
And they get the entire setup, right? The budget, what we've got. In cash and
They step
everything,
in and run the operation.
right?
Now they would have to proceed with the budget to start with. They'd have to take care of that issue up front.
do a budget amendment. Can y'all take that outside if you're gonna be calling people names in here, please? Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead with. the
If we
budget.
do a budget amendment at the next meeting, it's gonna take a majority of the court. It's gonna take 3 people to vote for it.
May I offer something just for the trustees to discuss?
Please.
If I understand the issue, trustee Douglas is concerned that if he approves the budget, he will not be able to reach a consensus on an amendment, even if 3 of you believe that an amendment is warranted. Is that correct?
100%.
So maybe we need to look at this just a little bit differently. And I would suggest that you look at the building services fund, which is the one that is giving you the heartburn, correct? And why don't you fund a period of a year that you feel comfortable with, whether that be 2 months, 3 months, whatever. And then instead of looking at budget amendments to add or to reduce the budget, if things are resolved to your satisfaction, you can amend the budget to add for a continuation of services. That gives you another sunset in which to address it. And I don't know if I made that very clear, but
So we can amend this budget here to approve it with a limitation on the building services for an additional 60 days.
if
or
you
2 meetings.
choose to only fund a quarter of a year, that means at the end of a quarter of a year, if this isn't resolved, you've got, the money's gone. I mean, you have to either reappropriate money or it ends on its own. Budget amendments work both ways.
Mr. Chair, I can withdraw my motion.
And I'll withdraw my second.
Does that give you any comfort?
Yeah. Yeah. If we can.
And-
I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was just gonna say it under our executive director's guidance that I like that thought. And what I would like to do is amend the budget for October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2024, under the building operations, decrease that budget from 800,000 to 200,000. That way, that will make. And under building administration, that's for all of the buildings we have, not just the hospital. Am I correct, Mr.
That's
Williams?
correct.
Right.
Yeah, so that will allow the continued administration of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings.
I would ask that you make one amendment to your motion, and that deals with the payment of the insurance premium. Because we have to put
That's in
in,
October 1, and that's not coming out of the.
well, and we have to pay it
I
annualized.
got you.
Now, what happens if for some reason
Okay.
you should close the building or whatever?
Yeah.
At that time, you can be refunded your unearned premium.
I will amend it to $278,000 because I believe the annual premium due October 1 is 78,000, and I assume we will get a rebate on
You will.
months not used on that.
You would be entitled to a
Good.
refund
Which we're gonna
of
pay
the
it for
unearned
October
premium.
1. Right. You want me to restate my motion? Or do I need to?
As I understand the motion, it would be reduce the building operation fund from the current
800,000?
to 278,000.
Yes, sir.
And so the budget amendment would have to show an increase rather than a decrease, if you ever got that.
Yes, sir.
So that would be the motion on the floor.
That's the motion. But I
And Mr. Chairman, just where the trustees will know what will happen is we will, of course, take this particular fund. We will, assuming the motion passes, we will adjust the line items accordingly. And where the money that's now appropriated in the line items is going to increase your beginning cash number. So that's where you'll see the money go.
Okay, I second that.
Okay.
Under discussion, the only reason why I use that figure is because I too probably more frustrated than you. And I think you can tell, but I like that thought, and we won't be able to exceed that.
I think it's a compromise because I hate to,
Right,
I hate to sink this entire ship for the sake of us not being unable to agree on something that simple. But if we put a significant time cap on it,
thank you, Mr. Williams, for suggesting
Yes, I
that. I
appreciate
didn't realize we could take it a line item like that, but that's a great idea, great thought. And I think it will benefit the taxpayers of Columbia County.
One that can sleep for 3 months and he's got to start worrying about his bill. And so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries unanimously.
I don't think we adopted the resolution, did we?
So
Yeah, so the motion then to pass resolution 2023-02, which is the same appropriations and reserves budget amount of 20,245,000. It's just been a portion reallocated pursuant to the previous motion approved.
entertain a motion, that
So
motion.
moved.
second,
Got a motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. We will close the public hearing. Are there any staff or trustee additions or deletions to the agenda?
Staff has no additions or deletions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion,
second.
a second, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Moving to public comments, Mr. Richard Tompkins.
Good evening. My name is Richard Tompkins. I am Wharf Master, or better known as President of Lake City St. Lawrence County Service. As you know, we do have a reverse clause on the deed If it's not being used as a municipal hospital, the revert clause is supposed to be invoked and the property comes back to us. With that being said, to get rid of one of the thorns in your side, we will entertain the idea or possibility of someone purchasing our interest in the revert. We will entertain at your leisure, what you consider a fair market value. And that's about all I have to say. Try to eliminate some of one of the major thorn in your side. So you can totally do what you need to do to talk.
Thank you.
Have a prior engagement, so.
Ms. Lindley?
I'd like to reserve my comments until the new business has been discussed. Thank you.
Just one comment. I don't think Mr. Williams maybe, or Mr. Kennan, legal term, a municipal hospital, so it's a government-run hospital is the way that I'm hearing that. Is that correct?
That's what I would say. A municipal hospital is a hospital owned by the government by definition.
Do we know what, is it the entire parking lot that reverter clause exists on?
I'll defer to Todd, but I believe the answer is yes.
Yes, it's that. We had it identified on the map.
So,
Parking, I think, is if you walk out the front door, it's the one.
so I don't see it.
Do east of the Bedelia building, where the Bedelia building was.
I don't see us ever becoming a municipal hospital again. I think at our next meeting, I would like to see on there for us to, if that reverter clause is still in existence, then we give it back to the Masonic Lodge. Be back on the tax rolls at least.
Don't think so.
Moving on to new business. Discussion of possible action to determine as to whether the Lakeshore Hospital building should be declared surplus public property, and if so, demolished.
Don't have any public comments.
We went through.
Oh, we did? Where was that? Was that-
No, I'm gonna reserve my.
I assume I was late.
Come on, Mr. Lee.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask, can we have the public comments now?
Well, I think, and I typically, yes, but since we don't really know exactly what's gonna happen tonight, I personally would like to give people the opportunity, if we say we're gonna tear it down, or I make a motion, which I plan to do, to give the building to Meridian. And that looks like it might have support, then they may want to speak to that.
I got you. I just,
So that's the only reason that Ms. Krill, did you want to have general comments?
Yes, as a taxpayer and an ex-member of this board. It's still stalemate. Nothing's being accomplished and everything's going backwards. Drug use and mental health are two huge issues, not just here, everywhere. Why in the world have you not given this hospital to Meridian or someone that could benefit the public of this county and the needs that they have? Why are you discussing insurance and things? Why hasn't this building been given to the people that could aid the taxpayers in this county? I pay taxes. I consider my building as part of my building. Please, don't keep it any longer. Get rid of this building. Do something that benefits the people that pay for it. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Ms. Krill. Are there any other public comments? I was going off of the comment card, so I apologize. Any other public comments tonight? Mr. Adam?
So my name is Dylan Adams. I work with a group, Marzuka Real Estate, based out of Naples. I have approximately $20 million for the commercial listings here in Lake City and Columbia County alone. Have we given a thought of selling this building? Putting it on the market, or even like, let's say the fourth quarter, we go October 1, December 31st. We give it 90 days, see if we have somebody who'll actually buy it, rather than giving it away. Just thought.
What would we do with the money? You're back to us. Give it back.
If there's no other public comments, we'll move on to the new business, which I've already announced, and I'll save my breath from saying it again. Wishes of the board. Williams, I don't know if you can introduce this item any clearer than what the topic is.
Well, I think the easiest way to do it, Mr. Chairman, is to simply, particularly for those that may not have been at our last meeting, is just begin at that point. At the last meeting, you discussed 4 basic issues, which was generally believed if they could be resolved, there would be no problem in working out a final agreement with Meridian. Based on my opinion and interpretation of what I heard, I think 2 of those went real easy and the other 2 were more difficult. The first of the difficult ones dealt with a request from Meridian for you to continue to support the hospital at a level until they could do their due diligence, come in, do sufficient remodeling where they could actually occupy the building. We talked about the possibility of having Meridian make a guarantee that should you do that, and they not, before the process was over, decide to keep the building, at least you would be refunded those monies. Now, at the last meeting, it did not seem to be a majority of the trustees that were in agreement to that. You wanted to just simply cut your expenses. And then the other issue was how the conveyance is made. Of the 4 members, 3 said you were willing to, by warranty deed, give the building to Meridian. And 1 said that they were not in favor of a warranty deed, but would entertain a long-term lease at almost nothing more than token contribution, and $10 a year was mentioned. And of course, there was no final resolution because there was not a majority vote on that issue. You then asked Meridian's director, Mr. Savoy, if he had time to go back and speak with his board about these issues and whether they had any interest in taking a different route than they had originally planned, such as a long-term lease. And of course, we do not know, or I do not know if Mr. Savoy had that opportunity yet. But because of that, you advertised for a special meeting tonight because you were already scheduled for the second budget hearing. And tonight, what we were in hopes of doing is trying to determine whether Meridian had time or not to consider what was discussed. And if so, did they have anything new to offer? And then, of course, based on what you may learn, then you can take appropriate actions as you see fit. So as best as I can, I think that's where we open tonight's meeting.
In the process, if it doesn't get there, but if we decide to determine that the main hospital building should be declared surplus, what is that process? We just declare it surplus, and then we can't give it away, so we have to spend money to get rid of it.
Well, yeah, and I'm not so sure that it's not necessary to declare it surplus, even if you lease it to Meridian. I know you have to do it in order to exchange the warranty deed, but I think you could honestly argue that even to do a long-term lease, because in essence, you're taking it out of the public's hands in one respect, giving it to Meridian for an extended period of time. I'm not so sure that it's a bad idea to do this process regardless of which option you take. It certainly can't hurt. But you definitely have to do it. I think Todd would agree if you're going to transfer it by warranty deed, you have no other choice but to do that.
Boy, did you have anything to present tonight? Yes.
How are you, Mr. Chair? Trustees, good to see you. So you had asked 2 weeks ago for me to reach out to my board chair and schedule a meeting. I did talk to my board chair. She is unwilling to schedule a meeting at this point, and I'd like to explain to you Meridian's position. We have worked now for 8 months since we had a meeting in February on purchase and sale for the building, including, and at great expense to both organizations, and including $10 million lease commitment, which we provided. We've also then been asked to put up to 1.5 million, I think it was 2 weeks ago, if you all were going to support us, and I think we'd be willing to do that as well. But you know, we have worked in good faith with many of your staff, and again, at great expense, and with our staff on a purchase and sales agreement. We would respectfully ask that this board of trustees honors that process and is willing to take a vote on what I think is a very good proposal that we put forward, that we worked, I think, down with the attorneys for Lakeshore Hospital Authority and Dale from 18, 20 items, was it? Down to 4 things that were really just more of alignment issues that require the trustees to have opinion as to where they move with that. We stand true to what we'd like to do with the hospital building. We think we can serve the community. Thank you for your comments. We will be here till the end. I think it's that important to the community. I've said before, as we see in communities an increased need for mental health and substance abuse, when folks such as yourselves come to us, we're typically priced out of the market to have anything close to bus routes downtown, ability to meet the needs vertically and horizontally for services. We have, I think, a real important opportunity here right now. And, you know, we've been at this since 2020. We applied back then, and the conversation was that, you know, we didn't fit in the healthcare category at that point. But we've had a lot of discussion. Folks, we've come a long way in education, a long way in understanding. Mr. Douglas, you know, your comments now versus 3 years ago, they warm our hearts. I mean, this is why we're here. This is what we do. And, you know, I get the smile, but it's good hearted. I mean, thank you for that change. And we hope that you will consider our proposal that we work very hard on, and we have an opportunity to succeed. I'll gladly answer any questions.
We may have to find some other parking for you.
Okay.
I'm willing to put up any lots that we have for it, though, so.
Yeah,
And if Tom calls you, tell him you took care of it tonight. I called him today.
Oh, okay, yeah, he reached out to our folks in Orlando, Tom Weaver.
Yeah.
He did reach out. I told him I'd see you.
I got stuck with the city, so I didn't, if he called me back.
But I'll tell you, those every other week calls, we got a lot done. We did things forward. Hope you can finish. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments for Mr. Floyd?
not to Mr. Savoy, probably to Mr. Kennon later. In our discussions.
In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we finally stop kicking the can down the road and stop the bleeding to the taxpayers. And we give the building, I'll allow public comment, and that we give the building to Meridian without any money for maintenance for 2 years. And that we work diligently with them to find acceptable parking resolution. We've spent, I'd like to have the actual number, but over $2 million over the last 3 years maintaining the taxpayers building, as Ms. Creel pointed out, and not many others. we've spent 2 million of the taxpayer dollars maintaining an empty building. It's not going to ever be another healthcare hospital. And I don't, a traditional healthcare hospital. A mental health care hospital, sure, but it's not going to meet the needs. We found that out. We've asked, and we've asked again for proposals for a full service hospital. We've got none. They say that Lake City doesn't need more than one. I disagree. I think we do. However, it's not going to be in that building, and we've learned that. We've heard from experts. We've heard from people that operate hospitals that it's not going to be in that building. I would rather cut the bleeding now and take the money that we have instead of spending, I truly believe, $3 to $5 million to tear the hospital down and put that towards a standalone ER somewhere. Do something good with that money that could go towards another healthcare project instead of spending $2 million over the last 3 years and then add another 3 to 5 million just of the taxpayers' money. That's their money, 3 to 5 million of their money to tear the building down. So my motion is to warranty deed the hospital building to Meridian without any maintenance and find acceptable parking.
To do that, your motion probably should include that it be declared surplus.
And it be declared surplus before we do that. Thank you.
Now you're specifically saying the building.
I'm talking about the main hospital building. That's it. That and any land we can find, maybe we can finally talk about it shutting down Lake DeSoto Drive and we can have circle parking out there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I know there's not a second on the table yet. I'm just, is it okay if I question him about his motion?
Sure.
On your motion, and I'm going back and looking at the proposed agreement, which Mr. Williams provided to us at the last meeting on September the 11th, again, looking at that, that's without the, with Meridian making the commitment of $10 million. I think one of the concerns that I had is, Mr. Kennan, I'll ask you, let's just through your discussions with legal for the last 7 months, if Meridian obviously has not gone in and looked at the building yet exclusively to come up, the figure they're using is 10 million. Let's say 60 days down the road, they come and say, I'm sorry, it's going to take more than 10 million.
Well, you would, any conveyance would require a reverter clause.
Okay.
So if they said we cannot fulfill our obligation,
Okay.
the building would revert back to us and we'd be
Okay.
having this discussion again.
And also in Mr. Bill's motion, he excluded the request by Meridian for us to continue payment for the next 27 months until December of 2025.
That's the way I understood the motion.
Okay.
And I'd be willing to amend it and add that in there.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just questioning you about the motion. And then also it precludes the fact where Meridian was requesting additional property for parking, which we discussed that even though we didn't take a motion on the meeting 2 weeks ago. That's not inclusive of that, even though he mentioned that we would work with them on the parking, but not deeding property to them. Is that correct? In your understanding?
I understood the motion to be the building, and obviously then parking would have to be worked out. As we heard, that it may be an option for Meridian to purchase the lot from the Masonic Lodge to extinguish that particular reverter.
Sure. And on the reverter clause with the Masonic Lodge, if you looked at it to the point where it satisfies if Meridian does get the building, that it satisfied
The reverter clause.
the reverter clause where it's still being functioning as a hospital because of Meridian's plans.
That's a complicated question because back when the reverter clause was put in place, it contemplated, in my opinion, our opinion, a healthcare hospital. So that would be subject to negotiation with the Masonic Lodge.
Okay,
as to whether,
And-
and if they can, and if they said, we don't believe Meridian's process plan constitutes the intent,
yes, sir.
then it's either resolved by negotiation, or you give them the property back, or litigation, which is your least.
Or maybe we can satisfy the Masonic Lodge by some of the other properties that the authority holds.
Yes, that would be the negotiation part.
Yes.
In addition, the Masonic Lodge could negotiate directly with Meridian. As to what the Masonic Lodge thought to be a fair market value for the property. And if they worked out a deal, then that deal would extinguish the reverter as to Meridian. And they would then, assuming we followed through with a deed to it after that negotiation that was successful, then Meridian would have that lot without the reverter clause. Because
Okay.
the negotiation process would resolve it.
And then as far as the deed restrictions and the reverter clause with Meridian, that would be in the contract. That would also include in the reverter clause that if Meridian ever ceased to operate it as a psychiatric treatment facility.
And that is one of the issues we left. There were 4 or 5 issues as far as specific definitions that we left for negotiation, because we got to the point where it was, instead of let's continuing to hash through those.
Yes.
Let's determine what the trustees are willing to do. And if we can, if there's a resolution there, then we're back to negotiation with Meridian to come up with those definitions, which would have to be approved by the trustees again.
Based on that, I will second the motion.
And a motion and a second, any further discussion?
Now I'm totally confused.
About what?
All the stuff.
I think what we have done is put some strong language for Mr. Kinnon to draft a contract with the hospital authority and Meridian. That I'm can live with. I've gone back, Mrs. Johnson, and I have looked at this nice brochure that Dale gave us when we met back in February. And, I don't mean to beat a horse, but I've read it and right here and Mr. Williams did a great job on this. From the period April 1, 1987 through September 30th, 2020, 33 years, we had 3 different healthcare companies. And now coming up to the 3-year anniversary this Saturday, September the 30th, that building will be vacant. Vacant. And I've only been on here now for 20 months. I realized that there were several months that this hospital board could not function. But I think that Meridian has showed to us that they are going to be an excellent member of the community. They are talking about 140 to 180 jobs, professional jobs. They have indicated to us that besides the economic impact that they are going to give us, they've come up with a clinical agreement to FGC, Florida Gateway College, which I think we all may have gotten a copy of this last week. And I was pleased to see that Dr. Barrett has signed that agreement for clinicals for the nursing students. Meridian's making a financial commitment to the community by putting 10 million. And that's why I just asked Mr. Kinnon, if it is deemed were they going to have to put more, then that's going to be in the contract too, to satisfy that issue. I just don't know what else we can do. We're not we're not gonna find another healthcare agency. I think if we even sent out RFPs and said, we will give you the hospital in $10 million, which some people requested. If you remember, the college requested that. We still are not gonna find a hospital / emergency room to come under that agreement.
But what we could do is take the $3 to $5 million it's gonna cost to tear that building down and build a start
Absolutely.
building a standalone ER somewhere in Columbia County.
Absolutely. And there's all sorts of big grandiose ideas that we can have after we've resolved this issue. And I have faith in our legal counsel. I've known him since he was about 12 years old. And Mr. Williams, I've known him for a long time. And I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready to move. And again, as I had said earlier, I am tired of giving $40,000 to $80,000 a month. If I had $20 million in the bank and I realize that I'm throwing away $40,000 to $80,000 a month, I guarantee you I would stop that bleeding quickly. And I am tired of the bleeding. I'm just tired of it. And I think taxpayers are too. I really do. From the ones that I have listened to. Yeah, I wish this room was full tonight of taxpayers to tell us, you know, wake up, stop the bleeding. But I hear it.
Before we get too much further discussion, we may need to amend your motion that it would be contingent on resolution of the, I can't identify them specifically, but the final resolution of the remaining issues that we had with Meridian when we stopped our weekly meetings, which would include but not limited to the wording of the reverter clause, a definition of what's required of Meridian before that would kick in, a definition of what they're going to provide. If there's any contingencies on us maintaining the building for whatever period of time, those sort of contingencies, but we're down to 3 or 4. So it just need to be contingent on both sides agreeing to those definitions and contingencies.
So amended.
And
second.
Well, and I'll second it as long as we can get that done within 30 days.
We could probably, we were meeting once a week, and then we wanted to see where the trustees were before we kept putting legal fees into an issue that we didn't even know the underlying end result. So the underlying end result is if we work out the conditions, the last remaining ones, and they get the hospital, then it would fruitful to continue to work forward. But we had gotten to the point now where we needed to know the decision before we just kept.
I got you, because I don't want it to go on for 7 months like it has been.
Yeah,
Is that 30 days reasonable to you?
30, 45 days. If we've been doing weekly meetings, it's subject. I don't want to commit. And the reason I say that is Mr. Savoy has very competent, very easy to work with 2 attorneys in Orlando. I sit here and make some time commitment and find out that 1 or both of them have trials. We're going to be out of the country, whatever, for 15, 20 days. Then I have to come back to you and say, I can't meet that obligation or that goal at no fault of anybody in this room.
And that's great. I'd love to hear from Mr. Douglas, because I'm sure he won't mind us having a meeting every 2 weeks.
Let's do it. Let's do
As
it.
long as we move them up to 5.
Oh, I won't make it. I think, how about this as the poor beaten up contractor in the room? Do you promise to prosecute the work as fast as you possibly can?
Yes, and I believe we were down to enough of the issues
That's,
and the rapport that Bruce and I've had with Tom and David, which is their legal counsel. Yes.
that's what I'm going for, because I've been in that hot seat where somebody says, you got 30 days. I'm like, oh, 45.
Yes, there are 2 of us, 2 on his legal team, and if we had to, we could do something one-on-one and make it work. We've got 4 attorneys.
Yeah.
We can fit in some pretty tight schedules, I believe, but I can't speak for them and their schedules.
Ultimately, the motion is to move forward with giving deeding the building. Just the building, I'll be fine. I'll amend the motion to say just the building and no parking for right now. We can cross that bridge at another time.
Right.
That. I want to save the taxpayers another $75,000 a month. That we've been paying for 3 years, so that's the motion.
Contingent on.
Contingent upon
Final
those,
details of the
yes.
contract for conveyance.
Was I'm on board to move the ball forward.
You're willing to
With that.
second it?
Yeah, I will second, yes.
I just, yeah, I'm in agreement. I want to move the ball forward. I like your idea of taking the funds that we would use to raise this building and put them towards good use. I'd rather do something like that.
Yep.
And see it go down the toilet, but by goodness, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And we only have 60 some odd days in the bank, from what I understand now.
Yep.
To keep that thing afloat.
Good point.
And I can't, yeah. I'm not trying to be unreasonable. I'm trying to be extremely reasonable, but I see the only opportunity sitting right there. We let them walk out of here once. I do not want to let them walk out of here again.
I too. And to echo what Mr. Savoy said, I remember where you were back in February.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was on the other side of this fence.
Yes, sir, you were.
100%. And then I visited that campus and I was, yeah. When I figured out that I'd walk my dog there for 6 months, I didn't even know it. I was like, oh, this is not a hostel for terrible people. This is the exact opposite of that.
Before we take public comments, did you have anything this morning?
I really haven't changed my mind at this point. Okay. And as Mr. Savoy said, he has not had a meeting with his board, which is what we asked for, or at least I asked for last meeting.
He did what he was supposed to do. He contacted the chairperson and they didn't want to do it because. For
That
whatever
is
reason.
what he said. He said they weren't available.
I think he said they weren't willing to.
They weren't willing.
That's what
They're
he
not
said.
willing.
Yeah,
I'm not willing to entertain a lease until after you all have, we work on good faith on purchase and sale. We'd like to hear the trustees plan on that and, you know, to talk with the attorneys as well. We put a lot of time, money and effort into this.
Yes, and as I stated last meeting, we put it out as a lease. That's,
no, their original proposal, because we had multiple proposals, one from the Disney World of Hospitals, and they wanted the building and $10 million. FGC wanted the building and $10 million. Meridian wanted the building and $10 million. We went back out and said, is there anybody that would just take the building and not money? And Meridian's proposal at that time was they would take the building. There was no lease. It was they from the very beginning, from February, our attorneys and Richard Powell and Mr. Williams, we've been paying them every week.
Yeah.
To negotiate this, knowing that they were going towards a deeding the property. So I don't think there's been any discussions in y'all's Wednesday meetings about leases, have there, Mr. Kennon?
Other than it might be an option, but nothing, we've not even discussed any potential terms of a lease. It has all been towards a conveyance.
And again, we're talking about kicking the can down the road, and in 3 months, there's gonna be no money to take care of that building anymore, and it will literally start falling apart. By that time, I will be off the board, so I'm not held liable for it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if there aren't at least 4 people on the board, nothing can be done.
That's right, it goes to the county, and they can get the.
Yep.
Hopefully. They will do that. So I guess still hear public comments, but if you have any more comments to make.
Just that moving from purchase to lease or moving that part of the negotiation there, it has always been my understanding. I believe it's been everyone's understanding. This was a purchase agreement. Changing the terms now, I do believe is materially changing the contract. It is acting in what I would call bad faith.
Mr. Douglas, I have never changed my stance. from the first meeting. So I was not acting in bad faith.
But I will tell you that the perception is. The perception is that.
Public comments, Ms. Lindley?
Good evening, trustees. My question to the chair is who asked Mr. Hopkins to come to the meeting? He said he was invited.
Sure.
Did anyone invite him?
No, I didn't.
I know you think I invited him. I did not. He called me at home. And I told him that we did have public comments. That's all I told him.
Are you a member of the Eastern Star and Masons?
I'm not a Mason, no.
But you're
I am a
connected with
member
it
of the
through your
Eastern
husband.
Star. And this whole thing about the reverter clause in the land has been known by many people. I believe Ms. Creel realized it when she was on the board. It was brought up. I know Stewart's heard it. I don't know how many times. It is not a personal thing.
Okay. My next question or statement is, I'm in agreement with what the chairman has said. It's time to dispose of it. Meridian's willing to take it. He's got a sore foot from kicking that damn can. And Mr. Kennedy has some valid points. It's time to let Meridian have it. It will be some economic growth to downtown with jobs. Might take a little bit of time, but Rome was built today. And I think board members should go ahead and get rid of it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Ms. Lindley?
Right.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Creel.
I think the question would go to Lori. Lori, if you don't do this.
Just,
then-
we will address the.
Well, I'm saying-
I understand.
If you don't do this tonight, what do you propose that this board do? Just keep going?
Well, first of all, we can't do it tonight because the attorneys have to do their thing.
But wasn't there a motion made and a second to? Is this on the floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
It'd be done, it would be moving forward with it
if we
tonight.
don't go, if you do not go forward tonight, what do you propose we do?
Oh, I believe in going forward with some format. The only thing that I maintain is that a lease should be done rather than a sale or a giveaway. And my proposal at the last meeting, you weren't here, was $1 a year with a long-term lease.
Haven't we been under a lease? Originally with Shands, and it's been just passed down and passed down. So the warranty deed will do away with the lease. When we sign that warranty deed, we walk. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I think that is what we're asking is, when we say we leave, somebody's got to make some decisions. I don't know where a lease would be any different because we've already been there and got that. Right? So it could be next year, whether at least we have it back and be right back here. I don't know.
Does the
Hold
reverter
on
clause,
one sec. We're gonna have to take a very quick recess to switch over the tape. We can do it in 2 minutes, right, Ms. Sonia? Make it quick, Mr. Wolf. You're up next.
I don't. Come on, Simon, we're in a race. I guess.
Mr. Looker, we're gonna call the meeting back to order. Mr. Looker.
Barbara, sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. I guess if you would have discussed amending the budget, you would have saved 45 minutes worth of time, which was my suggestion at the start. Place got very close to going belly up. For no good reason, thanks to Mr. Douglas being thoughtful. I would suggest that this board and your attorney, Todd Kennan, of Robinson, Kennan, and Kendrick, look into the fact that this is a legally constituted board. Something that Meridian should look into also. The enabling legislation requires a member of this board to be a practicing physician at Shands at Lakeshore, which is not closed, according to what we spoke about before the meeting. It's out of business. There is no hospital, period, full stop. So this board is not legally constituted. Should something come up, Meridian could be in a big hole for all the time, money, effort, and energy that they've invested, something that they should probably ask their attorneys. And while this board has stonewalled this the whole time and failed to ask Mr. Kennan to get an opinion, and Mr. Kennan has been silent. I know that in Mr. Kennan's heart, he knows that I'm right because he can read the English language. And surely Bruce Robinson also knows. I think you guys know too, other than your legal opinion, Mr. Beal. Earlier in the meeting, Don Kennedy mentioned that at the last meeting at September 11th, the agreement was given out to the board members. I just checked my computer before I got up here. I didn't see that as part of the agenda material, and that stuff was discussed. Maybe somebody could send that to me for tomorrow.
I don't know what he's referring to.
He said, he just said, he said he
I
had the
don't
agreement.
know what that was.
Well, that's what he said. So I don't know what it was either. Maybe it wasn't the agreement. Maybe he was just talking.
When you get through with your comments, I'll
I
say
will.
what I said.
Finally, I agree that no matter what happens, the lease should be given, the building should be given to Meridian. Should be given to them a long time ago. But I think this board has not done its homework. Exactly how Meridian's run, exactly the reputation of Meridian and other things. And I understand Ms. Chancey's hesitation. I'm not sure why she wants to continue to do this. The hospital authority is finished, folks. Sent you a spreadsheet today, got no clients, 23 clients. It's done, it's finished, it's used up. So in that respect, Ms. Chancey, I just request you give them the hospital. Figure out what to do with the rest of the money. And everybody moves on their merry way. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Looker. No, I don't care if you or the representative from the hospital goes first, whichever one of y'all wanna. If you said you wanted to mention something.
Yeah, I just wanted to. What I had mentioned, the handout was back in February of 2023, when we had the meeting at the. Whatever it's called, the school board auditorium. And I'm sure that the representative from the Columbia County Observer got a copy of it then. If not, if he'll call me, I'll be glad to make a copy of this and provide it to him, but it's one I've had for since February of 2023. I read it every night.
Any other public comments? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table to work towards giving the building to Meridian, work through the remaining hurdles that we have.
Assuming the reverter clause that we place into this and they decide, sorry about that, guys. Assuming that they cease functioning as a mental health institution and they want to turn it into a gambling casino, it would then revert to us, correct? The board would be reconstituted. We would get the building back.
That is correct.
If they stop doing what they say they're going to do, we get it back.
And there would be a definition as to what that entails, what they're required to do to maintain it. Failure to live up to that expectation or definition of service. We would then have the right to go in and enforce the reverter clause and request the property back.
Just like what we talked about with the, making sure there's no outpatient other than the primary care,
Primary care.
right?
Yeah, but no
There's
outpatient
no
like they
outpatient.
provide the services in
Right.
Gainesville or at the Michigan Street
Right.
address.
So all of that would also
Yes.
be a deed restriction, it would. My motion is very simple, there's more to be worked out, but the idea behind my motion is to deed them the
Right.
building.
Right,
And then let the attorneys figure out what needs to be put into that deed restriction, what needs to be put in that reverter clause. And they can figure out, as far as I'm concerned, we can give them up back to Masonic Lodge next month. That's fine with me.
right.
They can figure it out, we can figure it out with them. I said, let it go back on the tax rolls.
Let
Call their
them,
bluff. If they don't wanna,
Yeah.
they really want it, let them take it back and let them pay taxes on it. And that's fine.
and let them start us. Mr. Tompkins that spoke, I've known him for 40 years plus. We'll let them assume the monthly responsibilities of keeping the building open and functional if they wish.
Sure.
And also, from my understanding of the motion, Mr. Kennan, correct me if I'm wrong, we're giving our legal counsel 30 days, maybe 45 to come back with all of this. And then we will vote on it then as far as whether we absolutely finalize.
But we don't need to waste any more
No,
legal dollars on
no.
it if it's not gonna happen.
Absolutely. I don't want to. No. That was the reason for my making the second on the motion.
Okay,
And Meridian's not gonna be at the table if we don't.
do you have any comments, Mr. Savoy?
Not really. I mean, to be honest.
I don't
with
mean to
you,
put you on
If
the
I
spot.
may, the only thing I'd like to just address is when we talked about outpatient, I was here 2 weeks ago, I did clarify. That's medication assisted treatment for addiction. We said we would not put that at that building. But there will be psychiatry, there will be some outpatient services related to step down, like I shared with you 2 weeks ago.
Which
So
was
we
all
will
part
not
of the
operate
original
at no
proposal.
clinic or medication assisted treatment at the hospital in any way, shape or form.
Okay. And the security that was my concern too, which you answered, right?
We agreed to provide 24/7 security.
Substantial security, yes. In order to meet the needs of the patients.
If you have a definition of substantial, I would suggest you give that to your attorney.
Okay.
You will negotiate.
I will.
We can do that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
All opposed. That motion carries unanimously. Board member,
Tell Tom I'll be back in touch.
Text when I get out here.
can we make them more than once a week? I really 30 days. I really would like to see.
We will use that as our goal. I understand the position of the trustees.
Take some OT.
They know each other well.
Mr. Chair, can we go ahead and set a special meeting for October
Sure. What do you want to do?
What you mean? on-
in 30 days? Whatever the last Monday of the month is,
Okay, your next meeting is the 9th.
that's
your
2 weeks from
Your
tonight.
regular meeting,
2
and
weeks.
so,
We can make it the last Monday, whatever that is.
Todd, you better speak up.
If not,
I mean, if we got it done, we've got it done. If we don't, we'll be able to describe the progress. And if there's one issue that's holding it back, we can give an update at that special meeting.
I just would like to get it
I
on the
know.
calendar.
I know I'm booked the first and third Monday. So if we did it the fourth Monday, I shouldn't have a conflict. If not, Bruce. can be
Right.
Here, but
Mr. Robinson to be here.
Fourth Monday.
I don't have a calendar in front of me until
23rd, October 23rd or October 30th.
Can we do the 30th?
the 30th is fine with me.
work for you, Mr.
Hang on, now we're getting.
That how?
Yeah, I just,
No, that's the 31st.
before I can bring anything final, or a decision for anything final, I have to bring it before my board. They're meeting the first Tuesday in November. That is, I'm sure the date is.
That's
First
the
Tuesday in
14th.
November.
Oh, the first Tuesday, that's the 7th.
Yeah,
He said November.
y'all are gonna have a board meeting on election day?
I guess we are.
No election this year.
Yeah, no,
Is there an election this week? I thought that's when everybody voted.
Well, I
There's
guess,
an
I
election
guess
every
the
year.
question would be, if we've made this much progress tonight.
I'll bring it to my executive.
It is if y'all like us can schedule a special meeting to.
Yeah.
Because time is our enemy.
And that we will also be within the first month of the budget too. I'm not really looking forward to doing an amendment to the budget.
Just,
I
if you
agree.
want to coordinate with Dale
Agree.
before we set the meeting to make sure you can get something around the end of October.
If you all are willing, you can give me till tomorrow. I'll reach out to the attorneys and everyone else and make sure that we get with you all over the next 30 days.
I'll call Tom again tomorrow afternoon and give you time.
Give you till 9
I'll
a.m.
already spoke to Tom and David.
Okay, and then we can get with my staff and go ahead and schedule as many meetings as we need for.
Board member comments, Ms. Chancey. Kennedy.
Happy anniversary this Saturday. 3 years.
Well,
You do it for the money. You're doing it for the money.
We've exhausted agenda, we'll adjourn.